Mike. All right, what's up? I messed up on the thing. We are kicking episode 5 off with a banger because we actually have Nate Dogg actually has a camera now.
I do.
We have fully ascended. We've got a nice border around our cameras. We got our logo right here. We got our logo right there. We've got Ron's logo right here. I think we're good. You want to check? I mean, we don't got any mods in the chat, so if anyone's in the chat, does audio sound good? Does music sound good? Does Nate sound good? Can you hear Nate?
I mean, I always sound good, but
is Nate's face too close to the camera? I mean, I don't know. I'm making observations. If you go that too far, we can't hear you though.
hello.
I think we're just gonna roll with that. I think we're good. I guess I could check. No, let's see. Hold on. Let's do a little bit of Inception here. Talking?
Hello. I'm talking.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
All right, cool. We did our own mods. Alrighty, let's just get this started. We had a really awesome week this week. Yep. And our first issue that we're going to be talking about is the Three Jokers, or Batman Three Jokers. We're gonna be honest with everybody. This was not on our radar whatsoever.
Nope.
But our favorite comic book shop owner, Ron, said, "Here, check this out." We checked it out, and we were like, "Yeah, give it to me."
Yeah.
So we picked up the three Jokers like everybody else in town, and this book is hot right now. It's been what? I think it's been slated for release for at least 2 years. I think it's been constantly pushed back.
Yeah, something like that.
And so it's finally been released, and we're going to be honest with you in this review. We don't know a whole lot about DC, just because we're primarily Marvel readers, but we went ahead and dived into it. And I'll just say this before we actually get into the story. This issue is very welcoming. It definitely, if you don't have your DC history under you, if you don't have your Batman history under you, you can definitely read this book and not feel lost, which you can't say that about, the death metal series that's going on right now that I'm actually reading. So, Nate, you want to kick it off?
Sure. So, I definitely don't know the build-up behind this issue. So, I just sort of went into it with very limited Batman knowledge. I've seen the movies. I've read Year One and Killing Joke, but I'm pretty sure that's the extent. I haven't read Court of Owls, or I don't know.
Which I think is why I think we'll have such an interesting perspective on it. It's like we're treating it like a new number one, or even a number one to Batman, if anything, like a reboot, if you will.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed the setup that we get at the very beginning, with each of the characters kind of doing like a little bit of a backstory. It's almost like how Batman got his scars sort of story. You get a panel of Bane breaking his back, Riddler burning him with one of his hot irons, Catwoman scratching him, stuff like that. Just really classic stuff.
Yeah, and kind of just getting a history behind all of his scars on his body, something you don't normally see.
Yeah, and throughout this whole, especially the first introduction of Bruce Wayne and some of the black and white panels and his injuries and stuff like that, it felt like I had read this before, and it wasn't until another reviewer had said that this issue really feels like a homage to Killing Joke that I was like, oh yeah, I definitely see that. You can see a lot of influence artistically.
I really dug the panels on it, like the breakdown of the panels. Like, it was kind of more classic. It reminds me a lot of some of the Black Label stuff I'm reading, like Strange Adventures and Mr. Miracle.
Yeah.
That same 9 panels. Like there were a couple of, even in the Scars of Batman, there were 9 panels of each battle that he had that gave him that scar.
Right.
So yeah. So what we get in the first part is Batman and his run-ins with various villains, and then it kind of turns to primarily Joker and some of the the battle scars that he got from him. Right, and then we go into, correct me if I'm wrong, we go right into the first crime, right? Dealing with not necessarily Batman, but that he's involved with, or that he's looking at, right?
So it does each character's sort of scar stories. So you get Bruce first, and you get Barbara, and then you get Jason. And we basically get Jason's through a flashback while he is in the middle of beating the crap out of some of Joker's henchmen. And then we get a glimpse into the first crime.
Right. So essentially what happens is there are, in a shortened version of this, 3 crimes are committed. And at all 3 crimes, an eyewitness has identified the Joker in committing the crime.
Yeah.
But the problem is, or the conundrum is that all these crimes literally happened at identical times. So how can the Joker be at 3 places at once? And so Commissioner Gordon is there at one of the crime scenes, I think at the last one, and there are 3 unidentified bodies who are all mocked up as Joker, as the Red Hood. and they've been given the toxic gas or water that bleaches your skin, and basically what happened to the Joker. And then I believe they say in there
the same area.
Yeah, like the same place where the Joker was born, essentially. And they all I think they said something about like their jaws being broken or something like that, so they couldn't figure out their identity via their jaw. Like it's fucked up, basically.
Nerve damage to their facial muscles has broken their jaws into smiles, making matching dental records nearly impossible.
Fucking jacked. Like, it's crazy. So Batman shows up, and he's trying to, the cops are like, what do you think? What do you think about this? Like, what's your take on it? And he's kind of just mumbling to himself, and the cops are kind of like, I think Bats is on the fritz. Like, I think he's losing his mind. And in doing this, I think one of the bodies or one of the people that have been jacked up wakes up and starts like laughing, screaming.
Yep.
And at that point, Batman's like, "Get this dude to a hospital. We got to figure out what the hell's going on." And I think Batgirl shows up too. And there's this weird little dynamic when she shows up with Gordon. And I guess at this point, Gordon doesn't know that Barbara is his daughter. So that they're... Go ahead.
Is that where we're at in continuity? I know that's not really matter.
I don't know. Not being a DC reader, I don't know if in the main continuity of DC if he knows or not.
Mm-hmm. I know that this is supposed to fit continuity loosely. Like they're not super worried about it.
I mean, the feeling I get from it is this is something kind of in the past, but I could be wrong in that assessment. But at this point, Gordon doesn't know that that Batgirl is his daughter. Yep. And so they usher this guy off, and they're like, we need to question him, but we need to get him to the hospital like ASAP, or he's probably going to die from the toxins. And so he gets put into the ambulance, and you get this like ominous guy in the back of the ambulance, and like, "Hey, I'll take care of him. Just shut the door. We'll go." And when I read that, immediately when they started taking off, I was like, "The Joker's back there. He's going to kill him." Like, I thought it was the Joker, right? And so, the next panel, we find out that it's actually Todd, right? Is that his name? Todd?
Yeah, Jason Todd.
Jason Todd as Red Hood, just choking the hell out of this guy, trying to get information from him. And, he's drugged up. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. He's just laughing while he's getting choked. And so they see, Batgirl and Batman are following this ambulance, and they see that there's something going on in the back, something shitty's going on. So they're trying to get in there, and Batman busts through, and he sees that it's Red Hood, and he's like, "Dude, not the way you should go about this shit. You don't chokehold the witness." And then Red Hood goes into his whole like, "Well, you don't know who this guy is. Like, he's got a rap sheet. He's not, he doesn't have a clean slate." And so they finally I think they get him. They stop it. They stop the little tussle. And they kind of do some detective work. And while they're doing that, we get what I can assume is confirmation that there actually are 3 Jokers.
Yeah.
One of them is driving back to a cabin, hauling a huge 18-wheeler filled with the toxin that made the Joker back to like a cabin in the woods. Yep. And he is met by another Joker. And that's the other thing. When you read about each, Jason Todd, Batgirl, and Batman scars, each Joker has been assigned a category or a label. So Batman's Joker is the criminal, Batgirl's is the comedian, and Red Hood's is the clown. So I think it's the clown that's driving the truck, and he is met by the comedian. And then once they pull up, they go into the cabin, and the criminal, Batman's Joker, is sitting there plotting his next move.
He kind of feels like he's the main Joker.
Right. I mean, he's not...
Did you get that feeling?
A little bit. I just think... Yeah. Like, he's in charge. He's still throwing jokes, but he's super serious about what he's doing. He's the mastermind of what they're trying to do.
Yeah. I don't know. For some reason, to me, you get them... the comedian... And the now I'm gonna forget. Comedian, criminal, and what's the last one?
Clown. So the clown
and the clown are kind of bantering back and forth,
right,
but it really seems like the criminal is the one that's actually, trying to make the plans and stuff.
right, and it's almost like the clown and the comedian are like offshoots or personalities of the Joker. Mm-hmm. They're not as serious, I guess. They're just kind of the henchmen. Anyway, so they're getting ready for the next part of their plan, and then they're very in the dark about it. And so as they're getting ready for their next set of the plans, the group, Batman, Red Hood, and Batgirl are trying to piece together these clues and trying to figure out what's going on. And at one point, the toxin obviously comes up to Batman. He's like, why here? What's going on? Why are we using this toxin? This is obviously what he doesn't want us to focus on, or at least it's secondary, and he knows that should be their main focus. So in that, they do some analysis. I think Red Hood does some analysis, and they trace the liquid to the Arkham aquarium.
Yep.
Right? So they go in there, and you can already tell something's already off when they go in there.
Yeah.
And you can see that the artist is like trying to like draw your eye to the water. I mean, even for me, going into an aquarium at night, fuck that noise.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Like an aquarium at night is almost like a trope of a horror movie or something. Like
right,
some shit's about to go down.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in reality, yeah, you would think an aquarium would probably be the safest place if you stayed, I guess, in the I don't know. It's a weird because no one ever really brings a gun to an aquarium, so you wouldn't think someone's gonna shoot through the glass. But outside of like falling in the tank of sharks because you're trying to feed the sharks, I would assume that an aquarium is a pretty safe place. But we get proven wrong
quickly.
Anyway, so they're checking it out, and you can tell that the water in the aquarium is green. And we get a little close-up, and the fish are all smiling. And then we get a really big close-up of a really big shark.
Yeah, here's
that is smiling.
Here's our first.
Like, what the heck? A smiling shark. You can move it down just a little bit, yeah. So, yeah, that's fucking creepy. And I think it's either Batgirl or Red Hood that's like, yeah, I don't do sharks. So they're finding out that where the Joker hid at least part of his toxin is in the aquarium. So that's clue one, that's where we're hiding it. And while they're doing that, a group of Joker goons show up, and I'm assuming what I can assume is an old school Batman, or I'm sorry, Batman bad guy, or I don't know who this guy is. I think his name is Gaggy.
Gaggy, yeah, Gaggy.
Gaggy shows up, which is like a little jester midget, and I don't know if I should say that little person. I think it's little person, not midget. Yeah. Sorry if I have offended anybody. And he's basically like taunting Red Hood and is taunting the group and like, yo, kill everybody but leave Red Hood to me, because Red Hood actually calls him, I think did he say midget in the book? He says something like that, like funny little dude. And so anyway, Gaggy is basically saying like, kill everybody, leave Red Hood to me. Yeah. And so they start fighting. And I don't think the goons themselves have guns, but Jason Todd does. And we know that's how his fighting style is, basically shoot first, ask questions later. And so throughout the fight, he's shooting bullets.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that was his style.
Okay.
And so, like, I don't know. I mean, I know Jason Todd, like, used to be Robin. I know he got killed, but then wasn't killed, and then became Red Hood. And that's literally all I know. I don't know anything about his personality or his traits or anything.
So, from my understanding, Red Hood originally was an anti-hero, like, because they didn't know who he was.
Right.
And so he was killing bad guys, and obviously Batman's not about that. And so I guess he still kind of has that. He obviously still has that tendency where, like, if push comes to shove, he will kill you. And so he uses guns. So through the fight, he's constantly shooting, and we're seeing bullets go through the tank, and we're like, all right, you can kind of read the writing on the wall that something bad's about to go down. And it's looking like the goons kind of have the upper hand, and Yaggy's gonna go after Red Hood, and he's like, I got you in a corner, and Todd's like, no you don't, and he shoots the glass, and the giant shark flies out and eats Gaggy. So if that guy was meant to be around for a while, he ain't no more. He's dead.
He's gone.
Gets eaten. Goons are taken care of, and in the midst of the chaos, our clown Joker is in the weights trying to basically play off of the chaos, and he attacks them. And they are able to subdue him, and we find out that obviously it's the clown Joker who is the one that beat the shit out of Jason Todd when he was actually Robin. So there is some... I mean, all three Jokers have some significance to these people in the group, but we're starting off with this Joker.
Yeah.
So they basically tie him up, and they're getting ready to question him, and then something, and I can't remember what happens, they get called in about, seeing another Joker.
Yeah, they say they cornered number 2.
So they've cornered number 2, that they get the call from the police, and so Batman's like, don't do anything, just question him. I'm going to go check it out. Y'all stick with this guy. So Barbara and Jason are there with the clown Joker, and the clown Joker basically starts getting under the skin of Jason. He's pushing all the right buttons. He's talking to him the right way. He's reminding him of what he did to him, how he beat the hell out of him with that crowbar, and this is what made this book for me. Like, when I read this part of the book, I was like, I'm on it. And it's basically him reminding Jason of what he did to him and what Jason said to Joker that made him basically turn into the persona of Red Hood. If you don't know who Red Hood is, originally, that was a Joker identity, essentially.
Yeah.
And then Jason Todd, in basically not becoming Robin anymore through this traumatic event, took up the name Red Hood and essentially took up the persona, kind of. And they basically the Joker basically reminds Jason that when I was beating the hell out of you, you told me that you would be my Robin. You said that, and look what you've become. You've essentially become me. You call yourself Red Hood. You are me. You are my Robin. And Jason has had it. You can see him cracking, and he essentially pulls his gun out and is like, I'm going to do it. And you've got Barbara behind him saying, put the gun down. You don't want to do this. And the Joker is just edging him on, just saying more and more shit that's just triggering him to the point where Jason pulls the trigger and shoots, and we are to presume kills one of the three Jokers, kills the clown Joker, shoots him right in the head, and yeah. that's basically cool. How that was, I mean, there were multiple oh shit moments in this book for me, and that was like, I think, the fourth one in the book. And you get Barbara leaving, going like, you shouldn't have done that. And obviously, like, the unwritten Batman code is he doesn't kill, so Barbara's doing the same thing, but Red Hood's a little different. And so you've got Jason Todd basically going, well, I hope I made the right decision, because this dude is dead, and that's how it ends. We leave with Batman going to check up on Joker number 2, and we leave with one of the Jokers essentially dying in the first book, which there are 3. So, yeah.
Yeah, and one thing I think that Jason Faber did really well is when the scene first starts with Joker, with Barbara and Jason still there, we get a lot of wide panels. Mm-hmm. And then the more and more they talk, we start to shift back to the small... the narrow panels, nine panels per page. Mm-hmm. But then you notice that as it gets closer and closer, as the tension is building, we drop word bubbles and we just get like actual like action words or action. It's basically like the Joker laughing. But as each panel goes, it grows and grows more and more and more until we get that third page split of him getting shot.
Yeah.
I think there's a fantastic job of like actually building the tension and setting the mood for what we're trying to do here.
For sure. And like, I started with this week's pull. This was the first book I read. I probably shouldn't have, but it set the tone basically for the rest of my pulls that, Wednesday night. And no, I think it did a fantastic job. I think that the panels dictate the tempo, and it's done so well. Like I literally, after I finished the book, I messaged Ron and was like, that was fantastic. Like the paneling in that was just amazing, and the art is really good too. I was pleasantly surprised. And again, like we've said, we're not big DC readers. We read a lot of their Black Label stuff, and then I'm reading Death Metal. So it was kind of nice to read something that a lot of people I know that read DC are very familiar with. And I know that there's been a lot of anticipation for this book. When I pulled up to the shop, I mean, there was like 2 guys sitting, waiting for the store to open just to get a copy.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it a lot. It's not my pick of the week, but it's definitely up there. I really enjoyed it, and I ended up putting it, or I don't know if I've officially done it, but Ron, when you see this, please put this on my pull list for the next 2 issues, because I do want to read it.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll say before, if you have anything else to say about it, is I was looking at the next 2 books. You know how there's like a 1 in 25 and like a 1 in 50?
Yeah.
What's up, JR? What's interesting is the third book, there's a 1 in 450 variant.
Whoa.
So I cannot imagine how much that's going to actually cost, or who is going to get that book. Like Midtown Comics, probably going to get that book. But, will Ron have the 1 in 455 variant?
You're going to put up $455 for it?
Is it,
if it's at ratio. If it's
yeah, F that noise.
And it's the black and white's actually 1 in 100.
Is it? Yeah, that's right.
And
I think Ron
selling it at ratio.
Ron had it, yeah. I think he had it on the live sale. He had the 1 in 25 on sale.
He had both.
Oh, did he? So anyway, that's our 3 Jokers. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Really glad that Ron basically made us read it.
Yeah.
It was our homework for the week, but I actually enjoyed my homework. So that was 3 Jokers. You got anything else to say about that one?
Very, very close to being my number 1 as well.
Yeah, same here. All right, we're going to move on. So our next book, we're going to get right back into it. Right back into Empire. It is Captain America number 3, the Empire tie-in. I'll let you.
Close to being my number 1 pick of the week.
This one was?
I said it wasn't.
Oh, I was gonna say, dude, no way. I'll let you. I'll let you run it down for a little bit.
Yeah. So we're basically picking up the final bit of the storyline with Captain America fighting with a human Kree Skrull alliance in Mexico City. The big giant mountain Kotati is descending upon the city, and basically Captain America has taken up the ground forces while the Skrull Kree alliance is attacking the mountain from the air. There's really just not a lot to say about this issue that I haven't already said. So the things that were good about the first 2 issues, the really classic Captain America, like pick us up by the bootstraps, get it done sort of stuff. Like it's here, it's cool, okay. We do get some action in this, which I really appreciate.
I would think it's mostly all action. I mean, I'd say 85% of the book was action.
Okay. There's a lot of action. It just feels inconsequential.
Well, it's because we know where we're going. Like, we know, like, 6 is right around the corner. Issue 6 of Empire is right around the corner. And all this can do, because we know this is the last issue, is wrap it up.
All this can do is resolve, yeah.
Yeah.
There's some interesting fight sequences. They basically figure out, okay, what is the number 1 weakness? It's plants. They use their Pokemon magic, their Pokemon experience to be like, all right, we got grass type, we need fire. They literally start catching
Charizard, go!
The ridiculous soldier with the mustache that always says the funny cliche things has a flamethrower and literally starts, lighting cars on fire to create a blockade. The Kree and Skrulls are flying around in their ship, basically conspiring that, okay, once we take down this mountain thing, we're still going to kill everything in the city, even if there are still humans on the ground. Like, we're not worried about
still
Earth.
bloodthirsty.
We're not worried about humans. We want to make sure every last Kotati is dead, and even if that means we take down the humans with them, that's fine. That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah. JR, are you reading? Are you reading any of this stuff? Are you picking up any of this, or are you just waiting for wind? Question for you. Anyway, yeah, this also funnels into my theory that we've said all along about Empire is that all the action is in the tie-ins. Mm-hmm. A lot of action in this, and like, I have a tendency sometimes, and you know this of me, like, I get my books, and sometimes I'm just like, I kind of like flip through them before I read them. I'm like, oh, that's coming, and I didn't do that with this one.
Yeah,
because I was like, maybe this one will surprise me. I didn't do that with this one or the Avengers one, and you know, it did it. It did the whole thing of like, all right, action, and I can see the resolve, and there's the resolve, and so basically, you know, Captain America makes pretty quick work of our Grand Wizard guy. That's Kotati guy. That's like, he literally is like, oh, it's your staff. Swing. Okay, I win. Like, it ended so quickly, and so I think that's my only gripe. Like, I liked the story. I thought it was really fun. I'm glad I picked it up, but it ended abruptly. And how many tie-ins? So the X-Men tie-in has already ended.
Yes, X-Men tie-in is over.
And I'll tell you this: I think we probably would have gotten that same sense of like, wrap it up in X-Men, but we didn't, because Hickman put in that emotional tie-in with Explodey Boy.
Yeah. That
we didn't get that. Like, there was a quick resolve, right? But we saw how that resolve happened in X-Men 4. Like, okay, this happened in the past. Doctor Strange put a time limit on what's going on in Genosha. Mm-hmm. So like, we knew how it was going to end, but it still felt drawn out. And in this one, like, you knew how it was going to end, and it literally ended in a panel. Yeah. So, you know, obviously after they kill the monster, or kill the giant mountain, Cap gets a distress call that Wakanda's on fire, which we've known. And also, in reading that, I got very, like, annoyed at the fact that, well, what the hell has been going on in Wakanda? Because all we know is what's been going on in Empire, and all we know is that they opened the gate and Black Panther's dead. That's all we know.
I think this issue, when looking at Empire as a whole and complete with context, I think this issue will feel better. But right now, especially being in the middle of a 2-week break between the main title, not getting a lot of action in the main title, not understanding what's happening in Wakanda to its full detail, it just sort of feels like, meh.
And again, I put it to the tie-ins being part of the action. I put it to a lot of the tie-ins being canceled. And I think that really hurt. It's that at the end of the day, you know, again, we still got a number 6 and 2 Omega issues to come out in the following weeks. I'm really, it just sucks, because I wanted this to be more encompassing in what they were doing, and I feel like we obviously aren't getting those pieces. And maybe it's a selling point, like, hey, pick up the omnibus to really find out what happened. Which,
yeah, I mean, they still haven't confirmed that either. I wish they would.
Right. So that's Captain America number 3. Wasn't great, but wasn't bad. It was just meh.
It was what it was.
Next one, Avengers number 3. I mean, we can make this pretty short too, in the sense that it's the same thing.
Yeah, what we just said is just pretty much the same thing again.
So we've got the Avengers in the Savage Lands, and who died? Kazar?
Mm-hmm.
Kazar got a spear through the chest, and his wifey was like, yo, that's not cool.
Don't do that. And then they were like, okay, we'll reverse it. And then they reversed it. And
well, there was some action in between. You've got the guy on the cover who I thought would have more of a part, and literally Black Knight is just in the background swinging at shit.
Yeah.
Like, he's not really in this story. And the Avengers aren't really in this story. I mean, I know that these are these are Avengers in the book, but it's not the main Avengers.
Right.
And I guess, you know, it's the B team. It's
well, that's what this book is always supposed to have been, is the B team.
Yeah.
Because you've got Iron Man with Reed Richards doing their own thing. You've got Thor in his canceled book being nowhere. You've got Captain America in his own book, and you've got
Spider-Man in his canceled book. Ghost Rider in his canceled book.
Yeah.
Wakanda and Black Panther in his canceled book. Like, that's a huge chunk of content. I don't know. I'm frustrated.
I don't mind it being the B team. I
don't think. To me, there's no weight. That's what I guess I'm frustrated with. Is like, I just don't feel like there's any weight. And then on top of that, like, you have them in the Savage Lands, even though there was a Savage Lands or Savage Avengers book, and we're not. I don't know. It just feels so disconnected. I don't get it. And anyway, so Kazar gets killed. They try to figure out a way to bring him back. They realize that his essence is in the spear, his soul is in the spear. So Scarlet Witch and Dr. Voodoo, what's his name?
Yeah, Dr. Voodoo.
Dr. Voodoo basically reanimate their bodies and try to get Kazar's soul back into his body from the spear. Man Thing is now on their side, and he's whooping ass. And Black Knight is just there, swinging at branches. Yeah. I actually enjoyed issue 2 more than issue 3. I thought I did actually a lot more because there was just, there was an oh shit moment in this, and there isn't one in this book. In Captain America and Avengers, there is no oh shit moment. It's like, wrap it up. Let's just get to issue 6 of Empire. Yeah. And that's literally what happens. They defeat everybody. Kazar gets reanimated, and everybody's happy. And then Scarlet Witch is like, "Hey, Black Panther, everything okay?" And like, one of the guards, or Shuri, I don't know who it is basically like, "Yeah, he's dead." Shuri, yeah. Black Panther's dead, and get your ass over here.
Right.
Wrap it up.
I will say again, I think the exact same thing applies with this book that applies with Captain America. The panels in this book, let's just pretend like this Avengers isn't here. These panels in an omnibus with this entire storyline would go great. The art in here is fantastic. The action is really cool. It just, you're right, it feels inconsequential. It just is like, Quicksilver running around punching people, which is nice.
Oh, we even we didn't even talk about that. That was kind of cool. Maybe that was its oh shit moment.
I mean, it was literally 2 pages.
Yeah.
And then it cut away from them again.
It just felt like a really quick wrap up. Like, okay, we sold our 3 books. Let's get out of here. Like, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And you're probably right. The omnibus will feel so much more inclusive and more together, but as a whole, as an individual issue, no mas. So that's Avengers Empire. So we're gonna move on to our next, technically Empire tie-in, but I do not count it as an Empire tie-in.
Yeah.
And that would be X-Men Empire number 11 tie-in. Holy shit. Before we even start talking about this book, I will tell you right now, this is my pick of the week.
Oh.
This is my pick of the week because this book is fucking awesome. Jonathan Hickman continues to prove that he knows how to write really good stories, and I'm assuming he's collaborating with his artists really well because you, I believe, is the artist?
Yeah, Lionel Francis Yu.
Dude. Awesome. So, in the last issue, which was really confusing, our boy, what's his name? Vulcan, let it slip that X-Men have their own island called Krakoa, and the Kotati were like, yo, let's go there. So they go and decide to invade Krakoa. And I've got so many thoughts. Like, this is my pick of the week, but I have a lot of frustrations with the book, but I don't have frustrations with the X-Men storyline. I have frustrations in the fact that this has been wedged into Empire. the way that the Kotati invade Krakoa is so epic, and it looked so much better than it looked in the actual Empire book. It looked like a fucking movie. They're just coming down, and you've got basically our main character in this book who's on the cover, Magneto, meditating, and he's basically told, "We're about to go to war. We need you. We need your heroics." Now, let's step back a little bit. We're introduced to this same group of kids that we were introduced into in issue 7. They're sitting around a campfire, these mutant kids, being told a story by what's his name? I can't remember his name. Exodus, yes. And in the first story, Exodus was telling us about their boogeyman, the Scarlet Witch, and her great atrocities to the nation or the island of Genosha. And so in this story, he's telling about a hero, the great hero of Krakoa, who is Magneto. And so he's telling them what happened on that fateful day that the Kotati decided to invade Krakoa. And what we get is this epic story, heroic story of Magneto saving the island. But not just himself. He's tactfully, can I say that? Tactive, is that a word?
Tactfully. I don't know.
Tactfully, there we go. Using the island and its mutants to his benefit to win this battle, this invasion. And so you've got him creating or pulling metal from the island and using them as spear tips. At some point he runs out, so he has to call up on Iceman, and I don't know who the other mutant is, but she's able to control fire, essentially. Magma. And she pulls out lava from an erupting volcano, and then Iceman freezes it and makes metal. And he uses those things to kill all the Kotati. And then at one point he talks to, I believe, dude, I'm bad with names. The lady that takes that does the communications. She died in the last X-Force episode book with the glasses.
Sage.
Sage. She tells Sage, patch me into all the satellites, any satellites that we own, any military satellites that the U.S. owns or anyone owns. I want them all over our island. So, they're battling, and he ends up running into the leader of the invasion, and the guy's like, it doesn't matter what you do, we're going to come back. You're literally living on an island filled with vegetation. You cannot kill us. And Magneto kind of looks at him and goes, "You want to bet? How much money do you want to put down?" And before the Kotati can pull out his wallet, Magneto's like, "I've already won." And a satellite lands on the leader of the Kotati, but then the Kotati breaks out. He's like, "Is that all you got?" And then another one lands on the guy.
Another one lands, and then another one lands on that one.
Yeah.
And then another one lands on that one.
Uber overkill, but Magneto basically just shows that he's a boss. I will say this too. Magneto in this issue decides to don his original outfit, the original colors, the red and the purple. He looks like a total badass. You don't want to fuck with them. So after that happens, Magneto kind of says, we need to end this once and for all. Where did this come from? And I think it's Sage that says, well, they came from the moon. Or we got a distress call from the moon. And so he goes, all right. And so then the story abruptly ends there, and you see Exodus telling the kids, this is what it means to be a true hero. And then we get a full page of OG X-Men and Magneto laying waste to the Kotati on the moon, and that's how the issue ends. Now, let's dive into what we think Hickman is actually doing in this issue. Because we know that Hickman doesn't just be like, and that's it. That's exactly what it means. We know that he's working in little narratives that's going to pop up later on down the road, whether it's a year from now or 6 months from now.
Right. I think that he is setting Magneto up to be, well, I think he's trying to put him on a pedestal a little bit for an eventual fall.
For sure.
Not necessarily a fall from grace, not like he's going to turn against Krakoa, but some type of can't can't be resurrected, stuck somewhere, brainwashed, something.
Yeah, I think I think the reason why we think that is because we know the character so well, and we know his downfalls, we know his weaknesses, and so far through the Dawn of X and through House and Powers, Magneto has reformed himself, right? Mm-hmm. He's not the same Magneto. He's his temper has been tamed. He's more decisive in his non-violent actions. You know what I mean? He's quick to solve it diplomatically rather than with violence. And I think that's another reason why this issue is so kick-ass, because it's like, enough. Krakoa has been invaded 3 times. It's time to end this shit. And so he kind of puts he kind of puts the flag in the ground and says, like, don't fuck with Krakoa, and you wouldn't want to after this. But I think you're right. I think Hickman is setting him up for some kind of fall. I don't think it's against Krakoa, because we technically know where we're going, kind of, with the roadmap from 10 of what am I trying to say? Not House of X. What's the other book? Powers of 10. God damn, dude. We kind of know the roadmap, like, in the Ninth Life. They pretty much succeed. They don't succeed in the sense that they didn't fall because of man. They fell because of extraterrestrial technology aliens. They didn't. Magneto didn't lose his shit because of humans. So I think we are creating a fall. We just don't know what it's going to be like. I don't think it's going to be the classic trope of Magneto turning on Xavier. I think it's going to be, like you're saying, he's not going to be able to be resurrected, or he's going to be imprisoned, and we can't get our hero. We can't get our Hercules, essentially. He's going to be out of view.
Yeah.
But again, awesome issue. It made me want Hickman to be the guy that was actually doing Empire instead of Ewing and Slott. But it is what it is, and I think Hickman definitely flexed his muscles on, that he's capable of writing really well and a really good story, even if he's forced to be put into an event. And I think he did a great with his tie-in event too. So, anyway, that's X-Men. It was great. My pick of the week. We move on. All right, Hellions. You want to do a little bit of this one?
Hellions. We are doing more Madeline Pryor business.
Mm-hmm.
So, I will say that my initial reading of this issue was very underwhelming. It felt like, there are some comics, and people complain about both sides. There are some comics that just can stand on their own. That's not necessarily a one shot, but even though it's in the middle of a story, it's still going to stand on its own. It feels like it has a beginning and an end. Like
the previous issue of X-Men.
Exactly. That is not what this is. This feels like it is just the middle issue of an intended graphic novel, single published story, which I'm pretty lenient on, being a new comics reader. So many people complain now that everyone's writing for the trade or writing for the omnibus, and they don't care if, they literally just stop the story at 21 pages and that's it. And I'm really lenient on that. Like, I really don't have a problem with that for the most part. But it was really jarring in this issue.
Kind of rub you the wrong way. It ended too soon.
Yeah, I don't feel like there was enough really going on. However, I think part of the reason why I felt that way is my lack of
X-Men knowledge,
especially with dealing with the current characters in this book.
Right.
So, like, I had no idea Havoc had this weird point where he was a bad guy during Siege, and like he had been taken over, and he was like with Madeline Pryor, and they were like bad together. I wasn't, I didn't know about any of that, and so, I guess I can understand it a little bit more. Anyway.
Well, I think, and I think I know where you're going with this, in the sense that, like, if Comic Book Herald didn't exist, these books would be a lot harder to understand for novice readers, for people that just got into it. And I kind of got that too. I mean, I enjoyed it, and I didn't really connect the dots when I first read it. But then again, I watched Comic Book Herald's video, and he basically got me. I read it again. After I watched this video, I reread it. Because what we're getting is, it looks like Madeline Pryor, the Goblin Queen, is going to invade Krakoa, and the question has to be, well, what are they going to do outside of why didn't you invite her back to the island? The question is, will she succeed in her invasion with the clone army of Sinister's Alpha Marauders, or will she just show up to Krakoa, and will they be like, "Hey, welcome to the party," and that's it? We don't know, and that's kind of where we get left in this issue. And then I think you're right, like the whole Psylocke and I don't even know what the name of that guy is.
War Child or
their little fight was kind of like, it almost felt like filler, like Wild Child. I will say though, I have been waiting for a very kick-ass representation of Psylocke, and I think we got that in this book. Like, she's no joke. She ain't fucking around. She mind wipes a dude. She mind wipes Wild Child, with her fists, which I thought was pretty cool. But you're right though. Like, outside of the question of what is Madeline Pryor really going to do, is she going to invade Krakoa? This book ended very quickly. I did like it. Like, there's obviously some mysteries, like what's inside. That's Orphan Killer. Like, what's, why is he gooey inside? That's kind of cool.
Why did he break open and burn that guy's face?
Yeah, and is it a defense mechanism, or is the dude pure liquid? We don't know. We're going to find out. There were definitely some questions that, we'll get answers to in the next issue. I did think it was pretty epic that when Havoc's mouth got sealed away with flesh and he decided to cut it open with a jagged piece of glass. Yeah. That was pretty fucking crazy. My queen. Yeah. I thought it was fun, but I'm with you. I think the first time I read it, if I hadn't watched Comic Book Herald's video on it, I would have been in the same boat. Like, I kind of know who this person is. I know she's a clone of Jean Grey, but I don't understand her anger. I don't understand, I need some more context. And I think that it's a blessing and a curse in Hickman's Dawn of X. I like that they're sticking into canon and pulling things from history of the X-Men. I think it's applauded because, they're not just writing; they're trying to work with what the rich history of X-Men are. And I think we definitely get that in this book. But again, me and you, we're not going to know that because we haven't read that stuff yet. So thank God for YouTube.
Exactly.
But overall, it was fun. But you're right. The first initial reading, it was kind of hard to follow. And that, I think we had the same criticism of Excalibur. Like, you start throwing stuff, and you're like, "Wait, who?" And if we didn't have the internet, we'd be lost. So fun, but we'll see what happens next.
I'm still very interested to see where this is going, because I don't think Madeline was intentionally left out. I don't think she was uninvited or not told. Like, I don't even know exactly what the current in continuity story is for, like, where she's at. Like, do they even know she's alive or around? All the people that they invite, like, they brought Sabretooth on, they let Omega Red in, they're not going to tell her no. I don't buy that.
Unless it's like what they did with Deadpool, like he's too much of a liability to bring onto the island, like he'll destroy it. That might be the reason, or maybe she really can't because she is a clone. I don't know.
I definitely don't think that's a thing either.
Well, no. I'm throwing out the speculation.
I know. But if they're worried that resurrected zombie mutants can get in, and they very much believe they can, that's why they sent all the psychic mutants through the portal. Was to defend the portal so that the zombies didn't get through. If a zombie mutant can get through, a clone mutant should be able to get through.
Yeah, so I think it's more of her threat or just her unstableness and her just being fucking batshit crazy and them not being able to control her on the island. I mean, literally, that's why Deadpool's not allowed. Deadpool is not allowed on the island because he's too fucking crazy.
But he still went to the island, right? Like, they still went there and told him, right?
He had to get in. Okay, so in that issue, he had to get in using a monster on his island that was considered a mutant. He couldn't get through the gate. He had to use another. So there might be a technicality on her. I don't know, but there was a tech.
Is he for sure a mutant? Because I literally know nothing about comics Deadpool.
I mean, he is, but the way they wrote it in 7, he was genetically modified. You know, he was forced. That gene was forced to become he was forced to become a mutant. Now, granted, that means he's a mutant. So I don't know. In that book, it's kind of murky, but I think he was more of doing it to sneak in because he didn't want to get. Because the minute he walked through and they realized he was there, they're like, "Deadpool's on the island. Go get him." So maybe it was more of him knowing. He knew in the heart of hearts, in his back of his mind, that they were not letting him on that island because he's fucking Deadpool. And I think that might apply the same to Madeline Pryor too. Like, she's just such a variable, such a loose cannon that they can't afford her to be on the island because she might end up taking it over. And that might be because of Moira. Maybe Moira said, like, no dice. Like, here are some other mutants that we haven't talked about that aren't allowed on the island. Deadpool and Madeline Pryor. So
well, and there's obviously rules, right? They don't want any future seers to be, resurrected. That's why Destiny still hasn't come back yet.
Right. So anyway, there's Hellions, and no, I enjoyed it. I'm you know what? I enjoy it better than Fallen Angels. I will say that.
Yes.
This book is immensely better than Fallen Angels. All right, next up, X Factor number 2. This book has its ups and downs. I will say that. Yeah. I think the book started off really strong, and then we get into the Mojoverse, and again, if you don't know your history, you have no fucking clue what's going on. So basically, our group, they get a package that is delivered to their door that has some kind of body part. I don't know, something bloody.
Body part.
And then some shoes that have logos on them, and they realize that it's logos from the Mojoverse, which is an alternate reality, a reality TV show, essentially. And so they basically are like, all right, well, somebody died that was a mutant that died in the Mojoverse. Let's go figure out how they died. Before that happens, we get a little bit of more insight to, and again, remind me of the names. The sister that died, Jean Marie.
Well, yeah, Jean Marie.
Jean Marie and her brother kind of reunite, and he's got a million questions for her because, in the previous issue she died and they resurrected her, and they want to figure out basically what killed her, and they kind of bombard her with questions at the beginning of this issue, and she's just kind of like, yo, I died in a car, now I'm here. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Give me a minute. Let me breathe.
Yeah, I think what she says is quite funny. She says, I was dead this morning. I am, in a sense, about 2 hours old.
Yeah.
She's
so
like, just chill.
Yeah. So, the box showing up with the body part in it is kind of a nice distraction for them to go leave her alone and figure out another case. And so she, stays there. They head to the Mojoverse. They figure their shit out. They're trying to figure out where, one, who was this mutant that died over here and how did they die? And in the process of that, they kind of get integrated into the Mojoverse, into a reality TV show. And each one of the people in the group have to essentially be voted in on like an app to find out if they actually can go into the Mojoverse. And I think 3 out of the 7 or 6 actually get in. They're upvoted to get into the Mojoverse, where the other ones are not allowed in. Mm-hmm. And so they continue on in their investigation, and they run into a bunch of shitty people there that are wanting to get status within the Mojoverse. So they see them as an opportunity to build up in the ranks of the reality TV show world, and they get into a tussle, and Mojo of Mojoverse shows up and is like, oh no, don't kill these mutants are good for ratings. So they kind of interrogate him. At one point, they basically threaten his life. And he's like, look, I'll tell you what you want to know. Just put me down, kind of thing. And I don't, this issue is such a blur. They are led in a direction, and we're on like a cliffhanger, right?
I mean, yeah. So
it's a mess of a book. I will say that it's all over the fucking place.
They're basically say like there's the two guys that are filming them, saying that we'll lead you inside. You know, we're gonna get so much clout for leading y'all in here, and then it finally ends with North Star's husband showing up and seeing Aurora there watching what is happening on
Mojo TV.
On Mojo TV. And it's like, he says, is that my husband? And she's like, yeah, come sit down. And
did you know we get Mojo TV on cable? That to me was the only thing about the book that I was like, that's kind of funny. Like they're playing on this whole like dire situation, and she's watching a crime solving show that is reality.
Yeah. So I have a big problem with this book for two reasons. One, unless the Mojo verse itself is going to be a big factor in this factor, get it? Yeah, is going to be a big part of this book for at least 10 issues going forward.
No,
if it's not, this is just a waste of an issue. There is no reason to have gone this far. I mean, we had 4 pages of just them trying to get into the merge of the city.
Yeah.
It's not funny. It tries to be funny and it's not funny. That's the small thing, though. The thing that I dislike about it most is this has been touted as a follow-up to Peter David's X Factor run of like the crime-solving murder mystery sort of book. Yeah. And I feel like we got a really good piece of that in issue number 1. There's literally nothing about that after the first 2 or 3 pages in this book. Whereas I feel like the entire point of this book is supposed to be the murder mystery, the solving the murder. Mm-hmm. It's not really about who the murder is or where it is. It's about, almost literally like a murder mystery with X people.
Right.
In this book, it's a catalyst to get to the Mojoverse. And then it's just all Mojoverse. And once they're there, it's like the murder doesn't matter.
Well, what I will say is, and I don't know much about the Mojoverse, but the whole point of it is it's chaotic. It's a mess. And I don't know if, that might have been the whole point and the reason why it just didn't feel proper in the X-Force or X Factor. But there is no rhyme or reason for Mojoverse. I mean, look at it, like them getting in. They couldn't just get in. They had to work with the rules that they had, which was they had to get voted in like a reality TV show. But I'm with you. Like if the Mojoverse is not a major player in the series, then it does look like this is more of a filler to get us to Ten of Swords, which we know is happening. I mean,
I just don't know why we wasted an entire issue and just building up Mojoverse. We didn't even get inside.
Well, who knows? I mean, again, we don't know. We still at least have one more issue to deal with what we're dealing with. I have to believe that there is more to it than just. It's wishful thinking. I think it's wishful thinking that the Mojoverse is a major player in X Factor in more than in 2 issues. That we're gonna get. Maybe it is.
I don't wish that at all.
I'm not saying wish. I'm just saying I think that might be the case.
If that means I only have to deal with one more issue of Mojoverse, then
okay. So
I don't want to deal with it anymore.
Okay. So
I didn't like it. This is my first dive into Mojoverse, and I absolutely hate it.
Gotcha. I think again we're in that whole like we don't know much about the history of the Mojoverse because we're fairly new readers. But I'm kind of with you. Like it just didn't feel natural to where we were in the first book. It just kind of felt like, and now we're here, and it didn't. it didn't. The tone, you could see a shift in the tone, and I know that that's on purpose because that's what the Mojoverse is. But I don't think it fits in this book. We could be proven wrong in issue 3. Who knows?
It's true.
But we'll see what happens. But that's X Factor. I thought the first part of the book was really cool. Like I do want to know who was in the box and who died, but let's cut the Mojo crap and just get to it.
I also say, like, I'm dogging this issue pretty hard, but like I'm not going to stop picking it up. I trust Leah Williams to actually tell a good story.
Right. Yep. For sure. All right. Next up, Antithesis, Fantastic Four #1.
Now, I will say,
I'm gonna let you dig on this one.
No, see, that's before we get started. I read this issue like half asleep, and then forgot to go back and reread it.
Oh no. Well, here's my thing, and I think we kind of talked about this in pre-show notes or in show notes. Where does this? I don't know. This is one of these books that I'm like, continuity. Where are we? What's going on? Where is this in the timeline?
Right. So in the actual previews of this, it basically says that we are in a classic time of the Fantastic Four. Basically, like, it hints, like, to me it seems like it hints that this is in continuity, but that this is years ago. Like, this is not right now.
Right. Okay.
I mean, it's for sure not, because Valeria is an infant.
Right, but Valeria and Franklin, they're not the same age, but they're not that drastically apart in age, right? Or are they?
There's some pretty crazy time warping, Franklin doesn't age type weird Marvel stuff. I don't know.
Okay.
Also, you got to think, Franklin Richards' first appearance is in Fantastic Four Annual 6 in 1967.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, and Valeria, I think her first appearance is in like 1997 or something. So, they're not that far apart in age now, but there's some weird type of Fantastic Four cosmic time travel baloney that gets us there.
Gotcha. Well, anyway, I guess knowing that now, it puts it a little bit more in perspective. It's like a classic story. And I mean, it's drawn that way. I know that's touted that way.
Yeah, it's Neil Adams. Like, that was the whole point, is that a classic artist who never got to work on Fantastic Four is getting his chance to help tell a classic story.
Right. So, I guess to me, this book, I feel like this book is written for somebody that's never read Fantastic Four, because it's like an introduction to the characters. Like, Reed Richards is so, like, enveloped with his work that he doesn't even want to go on a date with his wife, so she's got to get butt naked to get him to actually go on to a date with him. You know, stuff like that. And it's just like, it felt like, which I'm not opposed to, because I haven't read a lot of Fantastic Four, so it was nice to get the insight. But I felt like it was, how many pages is this thing? 32 pages?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. So out of the 32 pages, I feel like there's only maybe 4 pages of consequence.
Yeah.
The first part of it is just like, we're the Marvel's first family. Reed Richards is too enveloped into his work. All these things. And then, after we defeat the threat, Annihilus, basically at the beginning of the book, we're back to our lives. And then suddenly, there's an asteroid coming towards the Earth. Let's stop it. Mm-hmm. And so we get another team building sequence. And they, I guess, are successful, but not at the same time of stopping this asteroid. But then the asteroid ends up being Silver Surfer. So Silver Surfer pops up, and Richards, the family, is just like, what's going on? Are you okay? And you can tell that the Surfer at the end of this issue is just very... And I know we're jumping around, but literally the first 30 pages of this book is just like, if you don't know who the Fantastic Four are, here they are. This is who they are. So again, I think we're going to focus on these last couple pages. The Surfer falls from grace, falls from the sky. They stop him, and they're like, yo, what's going on? You look like shit. What's going on? And the Surfer kind of is like rambling, and he's basically saying like it's coming, and they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And his last lines are, or you shouldn't be scared because you're the Herald of Galactus, like you have the power cosmic, like why are you freaking out? And then the last page is him basically Surfer saying like Galactus is dead, and everyone's freaking out. And then the next page is the preview to the next episode, the next floppy, and it's Galactus's chest being blown out by what looks like a celestial. I don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah,
and that's I think that's Antithesis, or that's the new character.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But again, this is where I get frustrated with the Marvel releases and timelines and like, hey, we're gonna do this story, because we're so caught up in Thor right now, and like my mind immediately was like, well, if I was reading Thor, I'd be like, well, duh, he's dead, he's been dead. And I know you can't look at it that way, but that's where my mind went. So I'm like, when the gravity of Surfer saying Galactus is dead doesn't really weigh a lot in my mind when I read this book. I was like, okay, what's next? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying that to diminish Galactus's weight in the Marvel universe, but we've got multiple stories that have been written in a much more dramatic and much more cinematic way, where Galactus has died, and you've gone, oh shit, but Surfer falling from the sky and just being like, and Galactus is dead. I'm kind of like, okay, what's next?
I think that is just a result of poor timing because of COVID. I think that if you had,
for sure,
because you should have read, as far as release date goes, you should have read that Thor issue like 4 months ago,
right?
And so like, I know that it still probably wouldn't have the weight, but like, see, I feel very different about this issue, but
right,
I'm also a big Fantastic Four person, and so I'm not a huge Neil Adams guy. Not that I don't like his stuff, but I know a lot of people pick this up just because they're huge Neil Adams fans.
Right. I like the artwork.
Yeah,
I thought it was cool.
The very first page, that full page spread of Annihilus, that is a badass Annihilus. Like, it looks really cool.
Yeah. No, I think he definitely set the tone of like it being set in a classic era, which I do appreciate. And I'm going to continue to read it because I want to know, what did kill a Galactus, and will that character have any weight going forward within the actual timeline of Marvel?
I would say we're basically looking at like a what if or an Elseworlds here. Just a fun story to tell. Neil Adams and Mark Waid just want to tell a fun Fantastic Four story that doesn't have anything to do with continuity. I think that's what this is.
Okay, well then, I had fun with it.
I thought the art was great.
I think that's what carries the book for me, is the artwork.
The thing with teeth is kind of strange.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can get this panel up there.
Yeah, that's kind of like body horror.
It's a little interesting for sure.
Also, fuck, I had a thought and it just went away. And continue. It'll come to me.
I actually, the part at the end where they had to do the whole like teamwork thing where bending the invisible barrier, and I thought that was really cool. But
no, it was cool, and like invisible woman, like testing her limits of her strengths. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool too. No, I want to continue to read it. I'm going to pick up the series. Obviously, I want to get more and more into it. I want to be enveloped in these characters, and if this is what's going to kind of lead me into it, I'm all about it. Like, I'm also looking forward to Fantastic 25, but that's because my boy RB Silva's on it, and yeah, I got to pick that up. So
it's gonna be good. I'm ready for that.
For sure. So that is Antithesis. If you're looking like Nate said, if you're looking for a book that's just fun and not necessarily worried about continuity, and you're just looking for something new to read, definitely pick this issue up.
Yep.
Next up, we've got our Daredevil Annual #1, aka Family Retcon. If in a bubble, this is literally Family Retcon issue #1.
Is it a retcon though?
From my understanding and from the opinion that I've got on the internet, it is. This character does not exist outside of this annual. No?
Oh, no, he exists before this annual.
Or he does?
Yeah.
But not in this way?
Exactly in this way. This was just a continuation of his story. All right. So
break it down then, because I don't know what the fuck's going on.
This is the Mike Murdoch story. There is no Matt Murdoch to be found in this book, which I thought was really interesting.
Well, okay, before you even go, just explain to me what the hell the stone thing is. What's like it? Just break it down, because I
don't know anything about the stone thing. The stone thing is important.
Because to me, when I read that, again, I don't know anything about this character.
Might be important.
Like,
I'm sure actually it will be important. So,
well, it's like the character doesn't exist, so I'm going to use the stone to make myself exist. So led me to believe that okay, go.
So this character does exist, but he doesn't. Okay. So
what the fuck? No. You either exist or you don't. What is?
No, that's why he's freaking out, because it's both. So what happens is, back in, I think it was in Charles Soule's run of Daredevil, so the one before this one, or actually I think it was even before that. It might have been Mark Waid or Bendis. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Daredevil comes up with a guise so where he can be out in public and says, I'm not Matt Murdoch, I'm Mike Murdoch, his twin brother. And people are like, well, we didn't know you had a twin. He's like, yeah, I have a twin, I'm Mike. And they're like, well, okay. And that kind of becomes like his secret identity for a while. So it is Matt pretending to be Mike. And then in Charles Soule's run, a villain basically conjures up a human and
magic. You talking about magic?
I'm talking about magic here, yeah.
Okay.
Magic, and creates Mike Murdoch.
Not the card game.
No, not the card game.
Okay.
And he creates Mike Murdoch, and he implants his mind with false memories. So Mike Murdoch is essentially like a clone of Matt, who isn't real. Matt didn't actually grow up with a twin, but Mike has fake memories of him actually growing up as a twin.
Okay.
And so this story is like his memories, like what's going on in his head, what it would have been like if he had actually been there the whole time. If Daredevil really did have a twin brother, this is what the origin story of Daredevil would have been like, or the origin story of Mike Murdoch would have been.
Question.
Yeah.
But okay, so we get this history of Mike Murdoch.
Yeah.
All the way to Matt becoming Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get towards the end of the book, we get a confrontation between Mike and Matt as Daredevil.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing that happens in this book. It's not a memory, correct?
Correct.
They have a talk. So
they
Daredevil
multiple times before, and before Zdarsky's run.
Okay, but does Daredevil know that Mike isn't real?
Yes, he knows exactly who he is, how he got there, and everything.
And he just lets him be.
Yes, because he is still a living person.
So confused.
He's Catholic, man. He's got to let him go. Like, it's his religious conviction.
Got it. Okay, so basically this book is showing us, or retconning, but not retconning, the history of Mike Murdoch. And we get...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is... What I think this is, I think Mike Murdoch is going to become a very important player in Zdarsky's future for Daredevil. And
as a bad guy?
As a bad guy. Well, as a complicated bad guy. So...
Not anti-hero, though.
No, he's already done anti-hero. When he was first created, he was created to fight Daredevil. He fought Daredevil. Daredevil found out what was going on. But Mike didn't know that. Like, you can tell at the end, Mike doesn't know that Daredevil is Matt Murdoch.
Oh, I didn't get that.
No. So... the clone, or whatever you want to call him, Mike, he knows that he's a clone. He knows Matt is the real one. and he knows there is a character called Daredevil. He
But
does
he doesn't know
not
that they're the
know
same.
that Matt is Daredevil.
Gotcha.
As a matter of fact, at the very end of Soul's run, it's called The Death of Daredevil. Mike saves Daredevil. Actually, I can't remember. He saves him, and then I think Matt reveals his identity to him, and then his mind gets erased again. This is getting too complicated for this issue. However, I think what this overall issue is a semi-origin story for Mike Murdock. I think it's also a way for Zdarsky to kind of give glimpses into the parts of Matt's origin that he thinks is important. And then I think it's also setting up Mike as a future villain. And I think a long term in the background, like he'll be defeated and then go away and then come back side of thing. Not just
Gotcha.
like he's dead and now he's gone.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is definitely not an issue for somebody that hasn't read any Daredevil at all this year.
Correct.
Because you would be because they reference a bunch of shit that happened in 21 too. If you hadn't read that, you'd be totally lost. But yeah, I mean, that's good to know. I didn't not enjoy it. I was just really confused. I was like, who the hell is this guy? Like, it's a deep cut. It's a Hickman move. It
is.
So,
but it's if you're reading the current Daredevil run, I would say that this is not skippable. You definitely need to read this because I think it's going to play. I mean, I'm making an educated guess. I don't,
No, I think you're right. You wouldn't write something like this as an annual if you weren't going to use it later on down the road. Like, it's definitely important.
Well, and Marvel's not just letting everyone do annuals just as they want to. And so I think he said, hey, I've got this big story I want to tell with Mike, and I need some kind of way. I need a one shot. I need to do it. And, the Marvel marketing team said, why don't we do annual? And he's like, I don't really care. Just give me the book so I can write it.
And so then they took that opportunity to test out some artists and see if they're going to do any well on anything else. Because that's usually in annuals, it's like an artist and a new writer duo. And Zdarsky wrote all of this, right? It's Zdarsky and a handful of artists.
It is, yeah. There's the modern penciler and inker, and then there is the flashback person who does both pencils and inks. And then
right. So Marvel is not notorious, but that's what they do with their annuals. Is they shop out new artists and writers to see if they have the legs to work on this series later on down the road. So we might be getting some new artists on Daredevil here soon.
I think one name to look out for then is, and it's a funny name, Chris Mooneyham.
Mooneyham.
Yeah, he's the one that does the flashback stuff, which is the art that stood out to me.
Right.
But that's also for sure. Stylistically, it's a little bit more scratchier, a little bit more. You can see the lines and stuff. It's not overly colored.
Right. Well, cool. So that is Daredevil Annual number 1. I mean, I'm glad I picked it up because obviously that stuff's going to be really important. So if you're reading Daredevil and you didn't pick up the annual, do yourself a favor and do it because it's important. We know it's important. All right. So next up is a book that I read and you did not, and that is Amazing Spider-Man number 47. So, Jesus, this is the. Oh, are you timing yourself out?
I'm just letting you go ahead. I'm definitely not taking a bite.
Oh, come on. I don't do that when you talk about your books that I haven't read. You're pooping, aren't you?
No, I'm taking a bite of pizza.
Oh, Nate's got to feed the beast. All right, well, hopefully Nate will be back. So, Amazing Spider-Man number 47. So this is a continuation of the Sin Rising storyline. I think it's part 3. What we have in this issue, basically, when we last left the series, Sin Eater supposedly shot a reporter, and we get back to find out that the reporter actually shot Sin Eater because he scared her in her car. Yep. So we see Sin Eater use his new voodoo powers, and he literally floats the bullet out of his chest and tells her, hey, I'm not here to absolve you of your sins. They're not that bad. But what I would like you to do is I would like to use you as a platform to spread my message of salvation. Pretty deep. So anyway, she takes a video of him and she releases it. And the video is basically calling on people that have been either living in sin, feel horrible about their sin, or have been cast out by society, and telling them to join his cause to rid the world of sin. And so this is broadcasted out to the masses, and Spider-Man sees this and he's like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And we find out that he's actually raising an army of sin eaters. He's raising an army, a militia of sin eaters that all wear the green sin eaters mask, and they're going to go out into the city and they're going to, kill people, take away their sins, that kind of thing. But what it really is meant to do is to bring out Spider-Man. It's the whole thing is a gimmick by Sin Eater to get Spider-Man to show his face, and he does. He shows back up, and he sees a gathering of all these people that Sin Eater has brought together, and they're getting ready to basically wage war on the city. And somebody shows up who we don't know who it is, and goes to Sin Eater and says, "Please absolve me of my sin. I can't live with it any longer. I've murdered so many people." And when this is going on, Spider-Man is watching it go down, and he's like, I can't let this happen. So right as Sin Eater's like, "I will show you mercy," and pulls a shotgun out and is about to blow this dude's head off, Spider-Man stops it. And then Sin Eater's like, right on time. That's exactly what I wanted you to do. And we find out that Sin Eater, in absolving people's sins, if they're bad guys, if they're superhero, or if they're people with power, people that use powers, if they have powers, Sin Eater actually absolves those powers and has them. So in the previous issue, Sin Eater took the powers away from the Legion, and there was different, Plasma Man and Torpedo, and so at this point he uses those powers to beat the hell out of Spider-Man, and he's using these bad guys' powers to beat the crap out of Spider-Man and tell him what he's going to do. And at the end of it, basically, Sin Eater's like, "Listen, you're not the real target. I know who the real target is." And we get a flash to Ravencroft, and Ravencroft is being run by Norman Osborn, and the Sin Eater is going after Norman Osborn at the end of this issue. So he's
Goblin?
Green Goblin, yes.
Oh god.
Yep. So Sin Eater has raised an army to invade Ravencroft, and the other thing that's kind of creepy about the issue is all the inmates in Ravencroft who Sin Eater has put in there, they're all screaming, they're all losing their shit, like he's coming, like he's coming to get you. And then the last page is Norman basically looking at the monitor going like, "Well, guess I'm gonna die here."
Guess I'm dead now.
So, again, I started picking up this issue at 44, so I have no prior knowledge of the series. All I've heard is like other reviewers talking about it and how it was really cartoony. But right now, the internet is basically like, this run of Spider-Man is super dark. And it's very interesting, and I'm really, really excited to see where it goes, and I can't wait for the next issue, because we do know that the Green Goblin is coming back. We just don't know if it's actually going to be Osborn or if it's going to be somebody else. So Sin Rising is leading to the reintroduction of the Green Goblin, so that's where we're headed. But it was really fun. It was really cool to see the Sin Eater kind of pull a Bane from the last Christopher Nolan Batman movie, and like kind of do his like, "I will free you." Like that's basically what he was doing in this issue. I was born in the darkness. Like that's what we got in this issue. So that's Amazing Spider-Man number 47 in a nutshell. And I'm looking forward to the next issue, because we're going into some really cool shit. Like we're gonna get some really cool like, Green Goblin, and some like half issues, like a 51.1, which I know some people are pissed off about. I can't wait for it.
This is leading into the Last Rites.
Yes. Okay. And I'm all about it. And we're gonna start getting more Spider-Verse characters coming into the book, which Spider-Man's one of my favorite characters. So you could sell me a Spider-Man book every week, and I wouldn't be upset about it. So that's that. So next up is your book, Plunge number 6.
Plunge. So plunge number 6 is the final. It's the final book of this series, and it's also the final book of the first round of Hill House comics.
Sorry, I'm eating some cookies.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Um, so basically, um, Myra has dived down into the depths and is prepared to unleash the child. What that is, we're not exactly sure, but she's been put into an ultimatum where all of her friends are going to drown if she doesn't go down there. And so she goes down there and unleashes the child from this massive, giant vault under the water. And all of the body-possessed sailors basically walk into the water and said, yeah, so you know how we said we were going to leave? We would promise to leave if you would do this? Yeah, we're definitely leaving, but the child's not. And he says, do forgive the child when he comes among you. The young are always born with such appetites. And so all the bodies go into the water, and the little centipede parasites come crawling out of their mouths. And yeah, start diving down towards the open vault. In like a weird aside that I don't really understand, there's a Russian submarine down there that they pass, and there's literally 3 word bubbles of actual Russian. I don't know what it says, and I tried downloading one of those like picture things where you can translate it. Yeah, it didn't work. And so we get a few.
Chernobyl was an inside job. Okay, sorry.
We get a few textless panels, which are just really nice and foreboding. Lots of dark red colors, lots of shadow. Stuart E. Monin is the artist on this book, and he does a fantastic job with shadow. I think that this book wouldn't quite be as strong if it wasn't for, it wouldn't feel as scary.
Gotcha.
If it wasn't for a lot of it is, it's scary because of what you can't see or like what's in the shadows, kind of.
Which is the best kind of scary.
Exactly. And then Myra gets to the surface and starts to try to untie her friends now that they aren't being held hostage. The Russian submarine comes up to the top of the water, and all of a sudden this massive tentacle comes flying out of the water, and we're talking like at least 50 feet in the air.
Kinky.
And what do the Russians say? The Russian says,
No,
no, this time they're speaking English. He says, are you in need of assisting, or should we just go fuck our own asses back to Moscow?
Oh my god.
And then they get eaten by the tentacle. And so I'm just going to show you.
Who gets eaten? The Russians?
The Russians, yeah.
So they got fucked in the ass.
Yeah, by this. So when I say tentacles, you might be thinking like a kraken, octopus thing.
Yeah.
But this is like a body horror, like evil, gross, like eyeballs everywhere.
Nah, I'm good.
Sort of thing. And we cut back to Myra trying to set everyone free, and unfortunately, Clark has drowned. The younger brother of
oh my god,
our main character. He has drowned. So now he has 2 dead brothers that have died.
This is the last book in the series, right?
It is.
Wow. So how does this thing wrap up?
in classic Joe Hill, Stephen King style fashion. So basically, I cannot remember this main character's name to save the life of me, but the main character, Gabe, Clark, Moira, and Bill all get to land and are kind of just looking at this tentacle thing like, well, what the hell do we do now? And Gabe realizes, wait, we have all the things that we need to fight this thing. So he finds the bad guy, whose name I'm never going to remember. It's some kind of crazy Russian name. and he steals the ingot from him. There's this ingot that we've been introduced to previously that like possesses you, sort of like makes you see your greatest desires and thinks you can do it.
Yeah, dude.
Chadwick
That's
Boseman,
the guy that plays Black Panther.
then. Wow.
What? Damn.
All right, we'll need to look into that after.
Yeah, keep going, and then maybe that's what we'll talk about after we're done with all our reviews.
Anyway, basically, as they're trying to decide what they're going to do, the tentacle monster literally starts ripping reality apart. You can kind of see what's going on because you can't really explain it. That's the sky.
Jesus Christ.
They think that it's opening a portal to hell. They can't. It's not literally, but there's no other way that they can think to explain it. And so Gabe decides that he's going to take the ingot to try and entice the child back into the vault, and then he's going to take a bunch of explosives, go down there and blow himself up, and hopefully take the child with him. And that's exactly what happens. He takes him down there, he blows it up, and it seems like he sacrificed himself to save the day. You get a nice little ending where right as he's about to go into the vault, he sees his two brothers. I can't see.
No, you're good.
He sees his two brothers like inviting him in, so you kind of see like, okay, he's gonna get some closure. He says earlier like, "There's no way I'm leaving this island. My brothers are here. Not gonna do it." So he blows it up, saves the day, and Moira and Bill are left on the island, just sort of thinking, well, I guess at least we're alive. The thing that I find really interesting is this has sort of a epilogue of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of these Joe Hill books has come to a definitive end. Whether it was Daphne Byrne or Basket Full of Heads, like they all came to a concise end.
Mm-hmm.
I think they probably even say end on the last page. But on this page, we actually get a little bit of an epilogue to where our main villain gets up and says, "I can't think of a single way that this day could get worse." And then a haunted, possessed body clone comes out on the last panel and says, "Well, I'll be seeing you." So I think we might get more Plunge story.
Plunge 2.
Yeah, which I'm super excited about because I think all of those other stories had good endings and were good, wrapped up in proper ways. There was still some stuff about Plunge that I wanted to know. I wanted to know, like, where exactly did these parasitic aliens come from? Why did they come to Earth specifically? What is this child supposed to be? If that is what it looks like as a newly born child, like what kind of creatures are we actually dealing with?
Right.
I don't know if you remember from the last time that we talked about Plunge, but those parasites are literally reproductive cells.
That's right. I remember that.
So they're this big, and they're supposed to be cells of a creature. So we're dealing with some type of creature that's super, super big.
Gigantic.
Anyway, that's the wrap up of all of Joe Hill House comics, and I enjoyed them. I'm glad that.
But he's continuing, right? Like after this.
There is no confirmation whether it is or isn't. So.
And then DC is doing all that restructuring.
Yeah, so we might not see any more Hill House for a little bit.
Maybe Image.
Maybe. He's done Image stuff before. He did Lock and Key.
All right. Well, cool. All right. Next up, and we will get to, if anyone is seeing this in the chat, we will get to the news after our pull list of some tragic news, but we'll get to that in a bit. Next up, That Texas Blood number 3. I've been on the fence on this book since issue 2, so last issue. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick this up. I want to see what happens. In issue 2, we got introduced to a new character from the first issue. And let me say this. The first issue was freaking awesome. Like, it had everything. It had suspense. It had great story. At the end, it was this big like reveal, and then issue 2 kind of went flat because we got introduced to a new character, but we're sticking with that character in this issue. So basically in the first issue, a character named Travis gets eaten by a zombie, a glow-in-the-dark radioactive zombie, if you will. In issue 2, we basically learn of his brother, Randy. So Randy goes back to Texas to find out what happened to his brother in issue 2. Well, in issue 3, it's a little bit of a continuation, but we find out a little bit more history about Randy and Travis. Randy basically skipped town a while back, tried to like escape his demons from the town, and now he's back and he's reaping what he sowed. And he's finding out that his brother had some debts with some of the locals, and he's going to end up having to pay for him. So Randy is kind of connecting the dots of Travis's last days, kind of finding what what his hands were in the town. Apparently, Randy had an on again, off again kind of girlfriend, but not really. And they kind of meet up, and she's kind of pissed that he's back because they could have had something, but he left before they could find out. And they end up sleeping together. But we find out that Randy's brother Travis ended up sleeping with her. Or no, that's not it.
Oh, God.
It's so confusing. It's not Randy. One of the guys that Travis owes money to, she ended up sleeping with that guy, and he roughed her up. So Randy finds out that, his would-have-been wife has been getting fucked around with by this guy. And he also comes to the conclusion that this guy probably killed his brother because Travis is owning this guy money. And I can't remember his name. It's like Kurtner, something like that. So anyway, Randy and Sarah kind of share the night together. And at one point she leaves and Randy wakes up and Sarah is gone. Sarah has left. Sarah has left. She has left the building. Okay. So Randy decides to take a shower, and when he gets out of the shower with just a towel on, there is an associate of Kurtner with a gun pointing at him, saying, "Yo, time to go. Time to come with me." So he gets dressed and
shared the night together.
Shared the night together, dude.
That's the best way to put it.
Got under them sheets. Anyway, so Randy basically gets escorted out into the country with this henchman of Kurtner. And when they get there, Kurtner is basically telling Randy, "Your brother owed me some money, but he's dead now. So the way we do it here in Texas is that now you owe me the money." And while this is happening, Randy's like, "Yeah, but you killed my brother." and Kurtner's kind of like, "Yeah, whatever, you owe me money." So he starts beating the shit out of Randy. Now, I will say this. Randy and his goons, or not Randy and his goons, Kurtner and his goons, while they're beating him up, there's something off about them, and you can tell. It's not blatantly obvious, but there's something up with these guys. Like they just don't look right. And when I say that, like maybe their skin's a little too pale, I think that they're possessed by something. They're not alive. That's the feeling I get.
Are you seeing them at daytime or nighttime?
At daytime. Yeah.
Are there zombies at night?
Maybe they're not zombies. Maybe they're just like being I don't know. There's something going on. So, like I said in the second issue was really flat. This one starts to kind of, we're finally building around our characters that we've been establishing. And, I guess that's the strength and the downside of independent comics. It's like you have to establish a universe first before you get into your really big epicness, right? And so it's kind of hard sometimes for me to go from Marvel when I'm like, yeah, action, go, because we already know who these people are. And then you get into these other things and like these other books that are independents, and some of them, they take their time to world build. So we're finally getting a movement. So anyway, Randy's getting his ass kicked, and the sheriff from the first book shows up to save Randy's ass and is like, all right, stop beating the shit out of him. You know that's not how to do it. And Kurtner's like, oh, I don't know what happened. Randy failed. Like he tripped on a rock, and that's why he's all bloody. I didn't do a thing. And so he gets his ass saved. And the end of the book, the sheriff takes Randy to his old house, and that's how it ends. But there's something off with the residents of this town, and so that's what got me kind of back into the book. It's still a little flat, but you can see that we're going somewhere. Like there's finally some momentum to get us back to that mystery of issue 1, and we kind of get that Texas Blood number 3. I will see what happens in 4. If 4, I'm putting my foot down. If 4, we don't see a fucking zombie, I'm done.
Okay.
I'm saying it here. You saw it live. If we don't see a zombie, I'm done. I'm dropping the book. So cross your fingers for we got something like that. But it was a fun issue. I will say that. Like the wheels are starting to turn because we've established our characters finally, and now we're kind of getting into the action. So we'll see what happens in issue 5, or issue 4. But that is that Texas Blood number 3. All right, Rogue Planet. We both read this, but I'm going to let you take the reins on it because we're kind of going off on a 1-2-1-2 here. So I'll let you do this one.
All right. So Rogue Planet. Last we left off, we had 2 of the characters, Isaacs and can't remember the girl's name, but they had been drugged by these aliens and were about to be sacrificed at the altar. Isaacs ends up being sacrificed, but they save the girl. Right as they unleash this like Halo-style needler weapon that shoots all the aliens and kills them all. They basically like genocide them just right off the bat. Which I mean, you know. And so we open up this issue with one of the crew members seeing stone carvings, which appear to be depictions of the ritual that they just interrupted. Let's see, did they say her name? No. So we basically are down to 4 crew members out of 8 that are still alive. And they're trying to figure out what exactly they're going to do next, surrounded by all of these dead bodies, when the dead bodies slowly start to get up. And this whole time, the crew member that had already been drugged by the aliens is basically saying, like, you're the ones that are doing this. Your fear is what is bringing them back. So we kind of get a glimpse that maybe what's happening on this planet is some type of psychological torture in some way, that the fears of the people on the planet are the things that are driving the actions on the planet, or something similar to that.
Right.
Turn that. So they basically hightail it back to the ship, and
let me see this. When they get back to the ship and you see that the splatter of that one dude's body because his skeleton turned into like a scorpion skeleton. I just thought that was hilarious. Like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yes.
Let's just walk by that. Let's just get the fuck off this planet because meh.
Yes, that was very Yui. So we get our 4 surviving crew members back in. They put, I believe it's Cheryl, into like a med bay to try to see if they can get the drugs out of her system. We even actually get a glimpse of the names of the shipmates that we have lost so far.
And it just says like error next to their name, right?
Yeah, it says error next to their name because they're not getting any actual
readings.
Final sign readings.
Yeah.
Because that's the readout on their deep stasis pods, which is where they were woken up from.
Right.
So they basically take off and think that we're maybe going to get away.
We made it.
And then one of the most hardcore, intense, gross, double splash pages.
I didn't think that there could be something more grotesque than what happened in your plunge book, but
yeah, it's this.
It's that.
It's just teeth and eyes and brains. It's gross.
Lots of teeth. I think out of all of it, the teeth is probably the part that freaks me out the most about it.
Yes, the teeth is no good. And so this, creature of the planet attacks the ship. And so there's a frantic scramble to get to the escape pods because I guess staying on the ship is for sure going to die, but going back down to that planet is the exact same thing that you're trying to avoid.
Well, they even say it like there are ships on the planet that they could probably salvage to get off.
You're right. I forgot.
And so when they're trying to escape, because that thing is going to crush it, it's going to crush their ship. They're like, no, if we get off the ship and get back to the planet, there's plenty of other spaceships that we can try to get into a working order. So that was their logic. I don't know if that's sound, but that's what that's where their heads were going when they decided to leave the ship.
Yes. So we see for sure that one character makes it, and we see for sure that one character dies. The pilot gets absolutely kersplat against...
No, like literally.
like actually literally into eyes and teeth again.
Well, yeah, because he's just like, go!
Yes.
Like, and not like, he doesn't even have form. Like, he literally explodes.
Yes.
It's gross.
So we see confirmation that one crew member definitely makes it down to the planet. I think we can assume that Cheryl in the stasis chamber is dead.
Yeah, she's been absorbed.
Asleep. She can't get out. And so I think it's Doug. They don't use their names very often, so it's really hard to identify.
It's another pilot of some sort that's
Alex.
able to. There you go.
Yeah, we don't see if his escape pod makes it or not. I'm assuming that it does.
I think he survived. It'll be like she gets back down to the planet, and then she's about to die from something, and he'll be like, and then it'll be him, and then the next page he'll die, and then it'll just be her.
Well, could be that.
That's speculation, but.
So that last
and the bullets will be in that order too. Okay,
that's a very specific order. I don't get the last page at all. Like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to be seeing.
It's the stone, right?
Well, it's the crashed ship with these stones growing out of it.
I'm confused on that one too. I think that's the ship of the actual aliens that are on the planet that keep on getting risen up.
It could be.
I don't know. We're gonna have to find out.
It was a good issue. Like, it's simple. It's continuing to do what we've been doing.
It ended really quickly, though. I will say that. Like, I felt like I read this thing really fast.
I do feel like that. We had more action, so less dialogue.
Yeah.
But I don't know. To me, this is just like an easy book to read. It's different than anything we're reading. I'm a sucker for space stuff, so it's definitely picking up for sure.
It's definitely fun. I will say though, like, its oh shit moment was like crazy, but I still liked episode. I keep on saying season and episode. Issue 3's oh shit moments were probably better in my mind. Yeah. This issue was good, but it felt just a teensy little flat, just a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I would say this is the flattest one of the series so far, but it's still
it's still good.
It's not bad enough to not keep reading.
It's not that Texas Blood issue 3, because that is a slow burn. All right, so that is Rogue Planet number 4. Yep. Next up. All right, so the next 2 books that I'm going to be reviewing, I picked up on a whim because I saw Mega Man on the cover, saw Boom Studios on the cover, and I saw a shiny cover. So basically, Boom Studios got the publishing rights, or they're just writing a new story for Mega Man, and this is exactly what this is. If you ever played Mega Man, any of them, the original Mega Man series or X, I highly recommend picking this up because it's a same but different take on the character itself and its universe. We don't get fat Dr. Light in this book. We get like sexy grandpa Dr. Light in this book. He's in shape. He can kick ass. Basically what we have is a new baddie, Skull Man, setting up a new robot revolution, which is kind of the same. That's the same storyline in the X-Men series or the Mega Man series. But what we have is there's clearly some differences in this universe, and that is that we might, Mega Man might have been lied to. That's what we kind of find out in this, that he may be more than just a boy turned into a robot. There might be some history that he isn't knowledgeable of, that he's involved in. So what we get is Dr. Light getting kidnapped by this villain, Skull Man, and in the process, Mega Man saves him. But as he's saving him, Skull Man either injects or reveals memories into Mega Man that he doesn't know if it's from the past, the present, or the future. And it's him showing him basically like a dark version of Mega Man fighting Dr. Light. And we don't know if Mega Man's in the wrong or if Dr. Light's in the wrong in this preview or flashback. We don't know what it is. And so Mega Man overcomes it. They kind of but they subdue Skull Man to the point where he retreats. But this lingering thought in Mega Man's mind is, was that real, for one? Or was it something from the past? Was it something from the future? Or, what is it? And so he's grappling with the idea that Dr. Light is not who he says he is. And on top of this, there's this whole robot revolution going on. And then as he's trying to figure this out, he's at home in normal clothes, not in Mega Man outfit. And we get somebody spying on Mega Man. And it looks to be like somebody that looks a lot like Mega Man, like a twin. And he's kind of spying on Mega Man to the point where when he leaves, he pulls his hood off. And when he pulls his hood off, his helmet is created. And it looks like Mega Man exactly, except he's black and orange. And so that's how it ends, is, he's basically saying, like, we'll see you in a few days here, Mega Man. And that's how the issue ends. I went pretty quick, but there's a lot of action, so there's not a lot of dialogue in this book. But the art is fantastic. It's kind of like a mix of Western and manga. Not as much as Seven Secrets. But it's really cool. Like it's a different take on Mega Man art style wise. But this character at the end, I don't think initially when I saw it, because he says brother, like, we'll see you soon, brother. Initially, I thought it was Proto Man, who in the games is in the original games is Mega Man's brother, but it's not. It's I think it's a new character. I think Boom has created a new character. I could be wrong on this, but I do think it's a new character. So if you haven't picked this up, you may want to pick it up just for it to be. It might be a key issue that later on down the road, with Boom having a deal with Netflix, if Netflix sees this storyline and goes, you know what, we want to make this into a show on Netflix, they probably have to talk to Capcom, no doubt.
Yeah,
but
there's a little bit deeper than that.
A little bit deeper, but I don't think Capcom would be opposed to not having to having a show on Netflix, because that drives people to buy the game.
Yeah.
If you go on Steam right now, there's probably like 20 different Mega Man and Mega Man X games right now. But it's a classic read for like people that did play the games. And I'll tell you this, Mega Man in this issue is a total badass. Like, it's fucking cool, like how he takes out enemies and stuff like that. And then, like I said, the art style is, I wouldn't say abstract, but it's definitely freeform. Like it's all over the place, but in a good way. And it's very colorful, and it's really cool. I'm glad I picked it up on a whim, but I got the virgin cover because it's nice and shiny.
Virgin foil with that.
Yep. So if you enjoy Mega Man, I would definitely pick it up because Ron's got copies, so go check it out. Next up, The Last God. This is your book.
Yes. So we are on issue 8. So our quest has finally got us to the east. I'm trying to think of the name of the mountains. To the Karkarak Mountains. Sounds like Kakarot.
Kakarot.
We finally gotten to the far east mountains, which is the sort of beginning of the end.
I'm gonna hit the head really quick. You keep going.
Yes, do it. This whole book is dark, but we really start to take a dark thematically turn even more, and also a dark stylistically, art style wise. So they're passing through these mountains where there's no living creatures, no food for them to get, and all of a sudden a random person appears and he seems to be running for his life. And it turns out that he is running from a group of people that actually live in this mountain called the Dwaros, which is kind of like a humid dwarf hybrid sort of a thing. It's the character that is actually on the cover that you can see. They're dwarfs in the sense that they live in the mountains and in the dark, and deal with metals and stuff like that, but they're human sized. They're not small people, basically. But we basically get the telling of the first team going through the mountains, the Dwaros, and of the new team coming back 30 years later. And we kind of get to see the results of what happens from when the first team came through 30 years before. So they follow, the Dwaros agree to lead them underneath the mountains through their city in the mountains and out the other side to the Black Stair. And so the first viewpoint we get is the team from 30 years ago going down into the city, where we get this little number, which was my favorite panel of the whole book. Amazing stuff.
Epic panel.
This is basically a god that they have captured underneath the mountains, and basically are using it to they're worshiping it, but also using it to harness power. So while we're down here with the first team in the past, we get a glimpse at these mountain creatures that aren't the Dwaros. They are they're kind of like rock people. I can't remember what they call them. But they're basically, 2 or 3 foot tall rock people that are kind of hiding in the shadows. But they're magic, and the Dwaros keep trying to capture them to harvest their magic. And that doesn't seem super important right now, but it'll come up. They basically go to the Dwaro King and say, hey, we're not trying to start anything here. We don't want to fight you guys. We just need to get through the mountain really quick so that we can go to the Black Stair. Because you guys don't know it yet, but there's a huge giant plant plague up on the top, and they're definitely coming down here. So you might want to help us fight them off. And the king says, yeah, well, what are you going to offer me in return? And, I'm never going to remember names here because they're all fancy, weird, Dungeons and Dragons style names.
Douche by la de douche de gauche.
Yes. The mage, the female mage of the group, basically says, y'all seem obsessed with magic. I've got this magic dagger, if you want that. And I've got this, magic sieve that basically will allow you to capture one person's soul. And the king's like, yep, sounds good. Give me that shit. So they give them that, and they're basically on their way from the past. We don't see any more about what happens to the past team. So we are thrown 30 years later, where the team is about to enter the city of the Dwaros again. And they're a little hesitant to do so because there's no one there. They don't see any Dwaros around. And that's definitely not what they were expecting. The queen is expecting to see the son of the Dwaros that led them through the mountains the first time, who is supposed to be the king now. And when they don't, they're not necessarily looking for a greeting party, but they're looking for some signs of people that are living around there still, and they don't see it. So they decide, well, we know that we have to go down into their city, go through the mountains instead of going over the mountains. And so they go down there, and the god is gone. There's no big giant red flaming god with fire and energy everywhere. It's just black and dark. And as they're walking, one of these rock creatures comes back out again. And they're pretty autonomous looking, like they just kind of look like rock creatures. But this one has a giant slash on its face from where you could tell it was one of the previous characters from the past that got attacked by the Dwaros. And the queen says, "Hey, do you remember me?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, everyone knows the queen." And she's like, "What happened here? Like, where's the king? Like, where's all the people? Where's the god?" And they were like, "Oh, you didn't hear? Like, you gave them magic and they became absolutely obsessed. And essentially, like, you changed them. And then all of a sudden, these creatures start coming out of the rocks that are sometimes it just doesn't make any sense. Like, it's just what they are. Like, it's like weird molten creatures that come out of rocks.
And that's like a flaming Groot or something like that.
And they basically start attacking the party. And we don't really get a big glimpse on what exactly happens. We just know that the party gets split up. But we don't really know what happened to the Dwaro. We don't know what turned them into these, basically what it seems like is they mess with magic so much that they've messed with the very composition of their being, and they're no longer human. They're almost like they're living rock. Yeah, so very interesting, very out there. But what made this my pick of the week? Yeah, pick of the week. Besides this amazing double page splash, which, by the way, I am not familiar with. Yeah, this right here.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
I am not familiar at all with Riccardo Federici. He could be a super famous artist, and everyone's like, "Duh, of course you love it."
Say that more Italian.
Riccardo Federici.
Federici. Okay. Sorry, you have to like put your hand up like Federici.
Federado. Yes. I don't know any of his work, but I mean, I honestly think that he's my second favorite artist to Asad Ribic. Like, his stuff is absolutely. Yeah, I'm saying that.
That's like me saying like I don't know. Donny Cates. I can't do it. Donny Cates is badass. Sorry.
Yeah, he's
Continue.
a writer also. But the second thing that makes this my pick of the week is the prose that's in the back. So because there's so much the words, that's what prose is.
So D&D of you.
Yeah, I know. Only if not. Because there's so much world building that Philip Kennedy Johnson is trying to do in this. He I wouldn't say that any of the stuff that we get in the back is integral to the story. You don't need to read any of it to know what's happening in the comic, which I think is I would be totally okay if you did need to read it, because I do read it and it's all really good.
Right.
But this basically is a story of when the people of this world meet the Dwaro people for the first time. So of course, you don't really need to know it. This is 1,000 years in the past. You don't really need to know what's going on, but it just gives you a glimpse into what the Dwaro people are like.
Nice insight. And it's written well. Like, it's not boring. It's not just like a bunch of words. Like, it's written like a story. It's fun. But it's also written like a canto, almost like academic texts. That's cool.
It's very good, and this is the first time that we've had a two-parter. So they're called the Worm Eaters. Anyway,
Yummy.
That's the last guy. If you like fantasy at all, if you like Dungeons and Dragons or Lord of the Rings or body horror, it's a couple different genres, but I've not been disappointed by this book 8 issues in, and now we finally get a week from it.
That's saying something. If you can get to 8 issues and still piquing your interest, that's a huge accomplishment.
And because it's this DC Black Label premium format, it's I feel like the writer and the artists get to do what they want. They're not being beholden by any sort of like,
Right.
well, a kid might pick this up, so let's make sure there's not blood. Like
Yeah, like
it's
fuck it. Yeah.
yeah.
I do appreciate Black Label in that aspect. Like I really, the stories I do pick up that are Black Label, like I feel like they're worth my time. They're worth your money too. Like you spend the money for that book, but it feels
They're all $5 cover price every issue.
But those books feel like, outside of like you're saying, like them having to be constrained by family friendly, the book themselves, it's like a Mylar book.
Yeah.
You put a comic book into a Mylar bag, and you're like, oh, this feels so good. Same thing. And I know that sounds weird, but those premium format books are just so like. I really like. That's one thing we didn't really talk about on the Three Jokers. That book feels good, and it's square bound. It just
Square bound, yeah.
You buy it and you're like, hell yeah, I like that I bought this thing. Anyway, cool.
I wish they would move to this just because there's so much from a collector's standpoint. Like they're
hell yeah,
a lot better, and you got a better chance at a 9.8.
Well, and I didn't say that about Mega Man. Mega Man's foil cover, it almost feels exactly the same as that book. Like it just feels good in your hand because it's not as flimsy. And I'll kind of say that with this next book that we're about to do. So that is Last Gods. That is your pick of the week.
Pick of the week.
Nice. And shout out to Ron again for letting me borrow an issue of Last Gods to take a photo of, because Numbnuts over here didn't bring it to work.
Oops.
So I couldn't take a picture of it.
About working.
So I will bring that to you soon, Ron. Thank you for letting me borrow that to get that shot. All right, next up. Wind, number 3. So this is a book that I'm reading that you are not, though I think you would enjoy this book, Nate.
James Tunyon. So.
James Tunyon the fourth. This is his brainchild, and it is at Boom Studios, so it's an independent comic, so they're kind of able to do whatever they want. I will say that the first half of the first issue was like, whoa! And then it kind of... And then the second issue was like... And then this issue came up and it was like, whoa! That's how I would describe this book.
Okay. Great review. All right, what's next?
And we're next. We're done. I know. I'll try to get to the point, though. So, again... In these independent books, they have time to create their characters, create their stories, get the back. They're not just like straight up into it. And this issue, we've established our characters finally, and now we're on the chase, quite literally. So Wind, and again, spoilers. If you are reading this book and you haven't read 3 yet, sorry to see you go, but spoilers. Basically, this book. Wind and his sister he's an adopted, so it's his adopted sister, but he's the adoptee. Oakley are on the run because Wind is got what they call weird blood. He's basically a magical being, and in this city that they live in, Pipe City, magic and magic blood or weird blood people are not allowed. And so he has the first sign that you find out if you have weird blood is you have pointy ears, and Wind has pointy ears. So he's always wearing a hood or a hat, or his hair is covering his ears. Anyway, the king of this city basically has banned all magic users and all weird bloods, and Wind is one of them. And so in this issue, Wind is basically fleeing, or no, he's not fleeing. He's trying to find somebody that can cure him of his condition, which is being weird blood. And there's this myth, I guess, that there's this society down under the city that there's this doctor or witch that can cure you of your weird blood. So he goes with his sister to go see if he can be cured. And in the process of this, the king, he's dying, and he's getting ready for his son. Let me see if I can figure it. His name is... I kept on reading it a lot today because I literally read this issue today. His son is basically in succession to the throne, and he doesn't want it, so he's trying to escape. So Wind and his sister end up running into the king's son while they're trying to find this witch in the pipe sewer systems. And the king's son is also traveling with the groundskeeper's son, who is like a craftsman. And in the first book, we find out that Wind kind of has a crush on the craftsman's son. So he's kind of got this like obsessive, I wouldn't say stalker, but he watches him. It's a stalker. He watches him.
Sounds like.
Yeah, he's got a crush. So anyway, on their way to try to find this this witch, they're in the pipe system, and Oakley, his sister's kind of like, yo, this is probably not real. We're just gonna go look, but this is all bullshit. And while they're doing it, they are going like they're going into the pipe system. They look on the wall and they see this giant compass that has these 4 different beings, and they're north, south, east, west, and they're looking at it and they're like, holy shit, this might be real. And then this cloaked figure comes up behind them and is like, oh, you don't know, do you know the story of Esriel? And they're kind of like, yeah, we've heard about it, but we thought it was just a myth. And he's like, oh, it's totally real. And so we get a little bit of lore behind why the city that they live in is against weird bloods and magic. And basically what happened is that these beings are basically elementals that control the wind, in different sections of the planet. And there are 4 of them. But in the process of the 4 of them, there's a 5th one that's evil, which is the the wind spirit of the forest or something like that. And it basically plays prey to the man's obsession with power and greed. And so in doing this being basically corrupts man to the point where it overtakes a majority of the kingdoms in the worlds, to the point where man creates one city, Pipe City, and they ban all magic because of this being. But this being infects humans, and it creates people that have weird blood. So Wind is one of them. So when he's telling this story to him, they don't know who it is, and they're like, wait, is this all true? And they turn around, and this guy is got pointy ears, and half of his body has turned into vegetation forest. So he's been corrupted by this forest entity. So it's real. All this shit is real. Like, it's not just a story. So when they get led to, while they're doing the story, they get led to this society that's underground of all these people that are weird bloods that have been infected by this being, whether they're part plant or, have some kind of magic in them. And so when they find this area, when they finally get introduced to this area, they find the witch, who's actually a doctor, who is performing transfusions of blood, normal human blood, to rotate the weird blood into someone that has weird blood, so they can get actual human blood. So they show up to him, and they're like, Wind's like, hey, you can cure me of this disease, that what he's calling it. And she goes, yeah, I just need to see what kind of weird blood you have. So she pricks his finger, and she looks into the telescope, and before she can even, she's kind of like thrown back, like, holy shit, this is kind of like, this is really rare blood. It's negative AB, blood or whatever. And before she can say anything, the King's Guard has shown up, and they trailed him to this area. And they're like, oh shit, all y'all people shouldn't be here. You're all fucking illegal. So one of the guard, the main guy, the main villain in this book is called the Bandage Man. It's this guy that's like 7 feet tall, but he's covered in bandages. You can only see his eyes. And yeah, I think now that I've read this issue, I think he has been I think he has weird blood in him. He's been infected, and he's like on this like vengeance. He's got to kill everybody that has it, because he's been mortally deformed by it. That's my theory. That's why I think he's called the Bandage Man. Anyway, he's trying to kill everybody, and Wind and Oakley are like, shit, we got to get out of here. And the doctor's like, listen, go to the northern city, go find my sister. You need to get out of here now. But you were very special. I just want to let you know that, like, you were the key to change everything. And Wynn's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So they leave, and we get, they look back. They kind of, like, look back as they're leaving. And the witch, who they just established a relationship with, literally gets a spear plunged through her. Dead. And so they run back home. And when they get home, they run into Oakley's mom, who is giving guidance to the king's son and the groundsman's son, who are trying to escape. Like, basically, the king's son doesn't want to be king. He's trying to leave the city because he ain't having it. He doesn't want to be a king. He just wants to live his own life. And so when Wind and Oakley show up, Wind is taken back because there's the dude that he has a crush on with the king's son, and he's like, oh, you're so and so. And the guy's like, how do you know my name? Like, how do you know who I am? And he's like, and then right as he says that, there's a knock on the door of the place that they escaped to. It's like a tavern. And who is it? It's the bandage man. He's hot on their trail. So the mom's like, listen, I'm going to go take care of these guys. You know, I'll give them what they want. I'll give them a drink or whatever. Y'all start running. And she's basically saying, also, Oakley, you can't go with them. You need to stay with me. They need to go on this journey themselves. So they're getting ready to leave. So the mother goes up, meets the bandage man, and he's kind of interrogating her. But he knows that they're down there under the ground, under the tavern. So he's kind of interrogating her. Gets a beer. And as she's getting the beer, Oakley's up there, and she's like, hey, Oakley, why don't you go downstairs and get that package so we can serve these men some food? And she goes, I don't know where it's at. I was like, no, I'm pretty sure you know where it's at. Just go take care of it. That's why you're my favorite daughter. That's why I love you. And basically she's saying, you need to run now. If you stay here, you're going to die. Yep. And you can see it in the character's eyes. Like, you can tell that the mother's like, love you, bye. Like, I'm never going to see you again. And it's a real heartfelt moment. So she ends up going downstairs, and as she goes downstairs, she can hear the discussion that they're having. And the bandage man's here. I'll even read it. So let me show you I'll show you what we're looking at here. Oh, it's towards the end. Anyway, so here's our they're sitting at the bar. There's Bandage Man. And the they're having this dialogue. And the mom is super, like, worried about this guy. So he's interrogating her. And she goes, hello, is someone there? And he goes, oh, someone is here. And he's already sitting at the table. And she goes, I'm afraid we're closed for the evening. And he goes, well, you can make an exception for us. So there's, like, 5 guards and this guy. And she goes, all right, well, I'll get beers. Is it just for you, or is it for just, can the men, my men get, or can your men get a drink too? And he goes, no, let's make it a party. Like, he's playing with her.
Right.
And towards the end of it, she's having these talks. And at one point, she's like, so what can I help you with? Like, how can I help you? And at this point, the bandage man just starts talking to himself. Like, he's just having a game. And he goes, see, this is my favorite part. And she goes, I'm sorry. He goes, it's the chase. It's no fun when they know they can't get away. No thrill in the hunt. You need to offer a little hope. That's that they may see tomorrow. Otherwise, there's no art into it. It's just blood. And you're like, oh shit. And at that point, the mom's like, I'm dead. And she goes, I really don't know what you're talking about. And she goes, oh, I think you do. And he lunges at her, and he goes, not that it matters to you anymore. And then you see shink. And he basically stabs her, and she's dead. So the mom's dead, and then it closes to the panel of it says, going to be closed for a few more days. No, it's closed indefinitely. So Wind and the party leave, they escape, but we lose the mother of Oakley and Wind, and the bandage man is hot off their trails. No. So this book is like all action, a little bit of lore, whereas the previous books were more character development. And now we've got a full-on chase, which is pretty cool. This book it was very action packed and very devastating. And I'm really glad I picked it up because I was leaning towards not pulling this anymore, and I just kind of gave it another chance, and I'm glad I picked up Wind. So if you're not reading Wind, I think you should check it out. It's really cool. It's definitely a different story, but it's got some classic and interesting points in the book. So that's our pull for the week.
That's our pull list.
That is it. All right. So we didn't really have much planned after this. We did want to remind everybody that this Sunday we are doing an early review of We Only Find Them When They're Dead, #1 from Boom Studios. We'll have some preview pages for you to look at while we talk about it, and to encourage you to put it on your pull list if you can find it. We can tell you right now, you should already, but make sure to join us on Sunday at 8 o'clock to see our early review of We Only Find Them Dead by Boom Studios by L. Ewing. It's a pretty cool book, I gotta say that. But I think we're gonna close off the episode today with some news that we just heard from our friend Jamie. The actor that played Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman, passed away today at 43 from colon cancer. That sucks.
Sucks.
You know,
I did not even realize that he had cancer at all.
I don't think they made it very public that he did.
Didn't seem like they did.
No, not at all. And that really sucks. I mean, I think Marvel and I think Feige was getting ready for him to be the next Iron Man.
Yeah.
Basically, I think they were getting ready for him to be the head of the Avengers. It really sucks. He's a really good actor. I mean, he's fantastic in all the movies that I've seen him in. He really kicks ass in 42.
Yes. Jackie Robinson movie.
Yeah, and you know what's kind of sad, or not what's sad, it is sad, like, so MLB today resumed play, and they were celebrating, Jackie Robinson Day is usually on the 15th of April, and they were celebrating it today, so it kind of, it was technically Jackie Robinson Day in the MLB, and then the actor that portrayed him passed away today. It just sucks. That's just, this just kind of reminds you, I mean, there's a lot of shit going on in our country right now, whether it's the pandemic or Black Lives Matter or the fucking election, and this just kind of puts it down again of just losing another person. I know it's cancer, it's a disease, and it's not, racial injustice, but it just sucks. It just sucks that we just can't seem to get a break this year with everything that's going on. I mean, I know we try to kind of, we read comics to kind of get away from that stuff and to kind of go to a different place. But at the end of the day, you've got people right now that are passing away from all kinds of things, and cancer is no exception. And it just fucking sucks.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's, he was a great actor, and I think it would have been. I'm really sad to see, how this might change the character. Not because, I'm not mourning the loss of TV or movies, but
right.
I think it would have been really awesome to have Black Panther, to have an actual black actor, a black superhero being the center of the next phase of the Marvel universe. I think
for sure, really totally. Like, I mean, they kind of set it up in the comics. Like, Black Panther is now the head of the Avengers right now. Like, that's a big deal. Like, I mean, Iron Man and Captain America are still there, but he's in charge. And I think we were going to see that. I think we still may see that. I think it'll be something else. I know that there's been a lot of talk amongst fans that his sister, Black Panther's sister, Shuri might become Black Panther, which we'll probably get that now. I mean, it's cool. Not a bad thing, but it still sucks. Like,
it does.
I was ready for Black Panther 2. I was ready for him to just fucking kick some major ass. Because we knew it was coming. Like, it was slated for Phase 4.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where they go, but it definitely sucks to see the Marvel Cinematic Universe lose Chadwick. Like, that just... Probably gonna go watch Black Panther now. Yeah. To be absolutely honest with you. Maybe Civil War first and then Black Panther. But that just... that sucks. So... We didn't really have any other news. That kind of popped up just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
God, fucking blows. Well, next week we've got a pretty decent pull. I don't think it is. I think I have 10 books. I don't know how many books you have.
9.
9. Let's see. Do you have any outside of the ones I'm picking up?
Yeah, I have 2. I have King of Nowhere. I believe we have the final issue of that miniseries, which has been absolutely phenomenal. And then Sea of Stars number 6. Jason Aaron's creator-owned title is starting back up again.
I recently picked up 1, and I haven't read it, but how hard do you think it'll be to find 2, 3, 4, and 5?
Probably pretty easy because there are multiple printings of each.
Okay.
I don't think I have. I mean, I just picked up what Brent had at Collected in Keller.
Mm-hmm.
He had some in a newly bought collection, 2nd print, 4th print, 3rd. I just bought what he had.
I gotcha. Okay, well, cool. I think the only book I have that you don't have on your list is Strange Adventures number 5.
Yeah.
I think everything else, we both are getting Wolverine. We only find them when they're dead. 1, New Mutants, Marvel Zombies Resurrection, Guardians, Fantastic Four, Empire, Cable. Oh, yeah. Avengers of the Wasteland 5. So that evens it out. So we'll have a nice 1-2-1-2 towards the end of the show.
There we go.
Well, that'll be cool. Yeah, there's Empire basically wraps up next week, and then we got a couple Omega issues, and then we're off to Ten of Swords, and I am so ready for that.
Me too, especially with the Empire not quite hitting the event.
And I hate
that I was hoping.
I really hate to say that. I know we want to wrap things up, but it's just like I wanted to prove all of the old school comic book readers that are like bitching about Marvel events. I wanted to prove them wrong, and it just feels like
it's like a middle ground. Like they're not even the old school guys; they're like the '90s guys.
Yeah,
because it's like it seems like the people that have been a fan or were big anticipators of Empire were either new readers like us, or were really either really old readers or just really well versed readers.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of Marvel history that was leading up to these books, and I'm not sure we did what could have been done with all of that.
I mean, it'll be interesting. We read 6 in the Omegas, and we'll just kind of go and figure out, how. I think we should do a wrap up, maybe a wrap up show, kind of just doing an overall overview of the series again, maybe on like a Wednesday night or something, and just go back to it and see really what, collect all of our thoughts and figure out exactly what happened. Because again, I'm with you, man. I just wish that event was better, and it hurts me to say that. Because I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, it fucking sucks. Like I don't want to be that guy. I always want to uplift. I always want to uplift the content that we read, because we're buying it. We're consuming it. Like we're putting our time into it, and I don't wish any ill will towards anybody that's putting themselves on the line to write a story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's what we got for next week. We appreciate you watching. If you're watching this live, please make sure to subscribe to our channel on Twitch, or follow our channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. We put these episodes up at least a day after we've put them or have shot them. So if you're not subscribed to us on YouTube, please subscribe and follow us on our social. We got a Facebook page, Two Fat Guys Pull List, and we have an Instagram page. We're not doing Twitter.
No.
F that noise, too toxic. But anyway, as always, please go to your local comic book shop local. There's plenty of good ones. If you're in the DFW area, we really highly recommend Collected Comic Book Shop on Altamere, and there's one in Keller. If that's not your jam, if you're on the other side of town, there's plenty of other good ones. There's Andy's Duncanville Bookstore. There's Zeus Comics, Red Pegasus. I mean, there's a shit ton of them, guys. So if you're looking to go to a comic book shop, just Google some comic book shops in DFW. And then if you're not in the DFW area, please go shop local, support your comic book shops, and also always wear a mask while you're out. The shit's not real. There you go. If you got your Marvel mask, surgical mask, whatever it is, please wear a mask. And as always, go fucking vote. We'll see you guys in the next one. Later, guys.
Peace.